They're a lot of fun. So anytime you can have the buzzers on something. Don't you like to do that?
Ours are very,
You don't
very
like to do that? We did that at horse camp this year because we got rained out. We played a racehorse game where she would toss out a question and we had, I think, eight buzzers. And so we divided everybody into 8 teams. And the team that was first got a chance to answer. And then their horse got to go around the track.
I'll go around to another place.
All right.
It was a lot of fun.
I'm sorry, but I'm going to stop all your progress. I was just talking about that. It's very interesting because our lists are extremely different, which I think is great to see that we were able to diversify where we were going. So if you could pick a talker for each group, it doesn't have to necessarily be. I told Megan she should probably talk because she recorded everything, so she probably knows what is on there. So I don't have a problem. You can talk too. So, but Megan, whoever does it, I probably need you to come up here because I'm going to record this, so I don't have to write everything down, and then I can type up some notes afterwards to send to all of you to best capture what happened, because I'm afraid it will take me way too long to rewrite exactly, because I think we had a discussion where we maybe wrote something down, but there's probably some explanation of some of it, so hopefully I can capture that. Yeah. So if whoever's going to talk wants to come up front here near this computer, so because I just pressed record on the Zoom call.
You're on.
And so what I'm going to start with is let's have blue group, I'll call you, talk about your strengths, and then we'll have green group. Add whatever they have left.
We're the blue and
blue and black. And then we'll have them talk about their weaknesses, then you can add whatever didn't get covered, so that we maybe don't repeat things, but that we capture everything. And if you have questions for the group,
do you want to flip this around?
Oh, sure. If you have questions for the group, we can ask them too. So we're gonna, hopefully you can see what they're writing and you can hear them. Okay, so Megan and Logan's mom help us out here and tell us about the strengths that you established only. Just strengths.
Just strengths.
Yep.
We got a lot of strengths, so we'll start on this strength. The old level system was a strength that we'd like to return as a strength again. Okay, now slide it over here. Okay, step up a little bit. Then we think horse camp is a strength. Volunteers and leaders and the time that they give. We also talked about the horse judging camp that happened in June or end of May. We found that to be great. We found that we have a lot of horse-related opportunities as well as diverse opportunities. I can't remember what location meant.
There was one.
Oh,
Wyoming, there's location.
Yes, good facilities and locations. We found that kids learning and participating was strong. Awards are good. Good sense of community and mentoring were our strengths. Is that good? Questions? Comments?
Sorry.
Disagreements?
Okay. We were talking about something else. So
I'm going to fight about it.
Okay, so let's add Caitlin. You guys just step to the side a little bit. And then Caitlin's going to give you the strengths from the group that might be anything that's different. You don't have to talk about them.
For sure. So for you guys, this is our group. A strength we identified was our new equine specialist at the university, Jenny Ingerson. She's been wonderful to try to help start bringing the program back together, bring some consistency across the state. We identified our horse manual as a strength, though it be a little outdated. We still have a cohesive curriculum, essentially, for a starting place. If someone comes in and doesn't know anything about horses, they can go to that manual and still glean a lot of good information. And we've talked about how other states have even asked for our manual and want to know when it's updated. So we think that's a really big strength. And just to add to our volunteer strengths, we noticed because of our small population in our state, most of the volunteers across the state do know each other. And so we do have that network with potential for great things of our network of volunteers.
Hey, Caitlin, stay there, and I want you to address the weaknesses first, and then we'll have the other group do that.
Our weaknesses. We identified communication as a weakness, kind of just across the board from top down, state office to the educators, educators to their counties. We all use different media. We all use different methods, maybe pick and choose what we communicate. Not all the opportunities are known statewide as far as newsletters go. Another weakness is maybe volunteer training as well. It is. Volunteer training and our levels program, again, would like it back, the new certification program. just doesn't quite fill that gap. We would like training for our volunteers before they're able to certify our members, and just know that safety is there and specific requirements. What else do we have on there?
Consistency and rules.
Rules.
Wow.
Yes. Lots. Okay, so the rules, consistency in our rules. We do have a 4-H competition guidelines, and then we say we use AQHA rules, and it's unclear as to for which classes, when do we use which, you know, should we just stick with all AQHA? The 4-H guidelines aren't really complete, don't give us all the information we need, just need consistency and where to go for those competition guidelines.
Age appropriate.
Thank you. Our patterns that are through Wyoming 4-H, we feel some of them are not age appropriate. Examples are like Western riding for the juniors, reining patterns. Just need to scale down a little bit. And our website.
It's beautiful. What are you
We
talking
know,
about?
we know you're working hard on it, but it'd be nice to have that consistent part of the communication.
Say that like
On
5
the
times. I can
website.
record that and
Perfect.
share that. It'll be
Perfect.
The website is
Yeah.
awful.
Yes. Anything to add, group?
Yep,
Sounds good? Okay.
Thank you. Starting over here, our our page 2 weakness was seems as though we have one great big month a year, and then after that we'll kind of part ways and don't see each other until the following year. Then location, and I can't remember that one either.
What's the weekend? What was the?
So I think it was that we have 23 counties, and while Stuart's example was in his community, one part of his county might have a really strong program, one part doesn't, or one county may have a strong program and one doesn't. So the fact that we do have counties all over was on one side, but the fact that not all of them are on the same playing field is a weakness that we have.
What it was actually kind of a little twist on that, and that is we have 2 communities in our county, and one county has a really good facility, or one part of the county has a really good facility, and the other part of the county has no facility.
Which may come later with
And so that's a problem for the part of the
Facility.
county that doesn't have-
Facility is what I'm saying. Time constraints.
too many things for kids to do.
Yep, the age-old saga continues. Inconsistent clinics. We have a lot of opportunities in clinics around, but depending on who's leading the clinic, we're getting a different message, and they're going to tell us one thing and show up at another one, and it's totally different.
And
I'll-
that isn't just us, some of it's our partners.
Yes.
The junior colleges put on clinics, and they go to that clinic, come back and go to
Lack of publicity and communication, we also identified, but also publicity that these things are available. I think also some mentoring, both of kids and parents and volunteers, and then also not enough peer recognition. And that's more related to 4-H being cool or cooler or as cool or equally cool to FFA
Or
and
sports.
sports.
I think the term's sick, isn't it?
It's cool.
I think that's like
That's last
year.
Yeah. Opportunities, Sarah?
Yep, you guys go and then Caitlin will
Okay.
finish up with her.
So we talked a lot about opportunities, starting with leader training, and also a horseless horse opportunity get to be explored, career exploration and curriculum that's more beyond writing and showing, but also one of the examples was vet science or equine studies. Also, we talked more about fun events, and that kind of came out of that discussion regarding we have one big month a year. Using partnerships to do those fun events as well as job-related functional events where it's not just showing. Scholarships to go to college, cool senior age leadership and social opportunities. We want to win money, have rodeos, have cool awards such as coats, buckles, and stuff that Jessie can show off. Plaques are a little outdated. More publicity, more personal publicity for the kids, not necessarily in the newspaper or on Facebook, but where Jessie can wear a coat that says Grand Champion Quarter Horse of the Goshen County Fair in 2015.
Or 2017.
17.
But she had the Grand Champion.
Oh,
Okay. Then page 2.
We have a lot of opportunities. Wow.
We're optimists, I think.
That's
But so then Sarah really likes.
I'm really excited about
Sarah really likes this idea about picking out apparel in school colors and adding a 4-H clover. So make sure she remembers that. Jessie says that the more usable and functional it is, the cooler it is. That's why plaques were not the hip thing. Preference to be for apparel so that it's more visible, more seen. Also discussion about awards committees of kids, identifying perhaps a list of awards to choose from. A regional camp or competition, which you guys mentioned, clubs owning a horse, listening to the kids, bringing back the levels. I wrote just value added, making it all richer and better. That was my one comment I got at the end. Bam.
All right, Caitlin, what did we miss?
Perfect. We do have different things.
It was, I figured your stuff and like, whoa.
Yep. So partly to address the communication, probably had an idea for a statewide newsletter for horse opportunities happening throughout the state to be distributed. From our youth member, stock events are huge right now with the kids, and just to give more of those opportunities, maybe to piggyback onto the area camp idea, making those more stock event camps, because not all kids have access to cattle and to the facilities to do that, but you're more easily able to practice any of the other events. So maybe our camp time should be more dedicated to those specialty events. To address our leader training, we thought utilize our social media. We could easily come up with, as a committee or subcommittees, a leader training video. Our volunteer training video to post on YouTube, to post along Facebook, to make it easily accessible. To address our strengths of our current judging and judging camps that we had this year, as well as some hippology. We got some feedback that it would be helpful to have maybe split those into a beginner and more advanced groups, because trying to squish it all into one clinic kind of went over the heads of first year beginners. It'd be nice to split those up a little bit. We love the ideas of after school programs. Of course, that comes down to your educator getting in there, but absolutely after school programs could help with the horseless horse. It could help get more interest into our program. There was talk of ag days that a lot of third grades across the state do. Help me with this. I wasn't familiar with this. And an ag day.
They tour like different farms.
No, they're usually done in one site. Like Toronto County does it.
Ag in the classroom.
Yeah, it's
That's
not
what it
ag in
was.
the classroom, no.
Oh, okay.
No, it's an ag expo where different
It's like
aspects
fourth
of
grade
agriculture come
in our
in
county.
and do hands-on related agricultural stuff.
So getting us into those.
So Wyoming
Yeah.
4-H horse could piggyback kind of into that. What was our last one?
Horse bowl,
A horse bowl.
buzzers.
Yes. We
Yes.
would love to incorporate horse bowl into
Yes.
our opportunities, our contests. Kids love buzzers, gets you excited. We want
I'm in.
buzzers.
I'm in.
Okay, so now Caitlin's gonna do her challenges for the green group, and then the other blue group will finish up with their challenges.
So we felt kind of the opposite as far as opportunities for training, especially more on the western side of the state. There doesn't seem to be as many clinics, as many clinicians to come in and help our clubs out, or at least the knowledge of who's in our respective areas to come help our clubs, to teach them about, have a farrier come, or to have a working cow clinician come in, or a Western pleasure trainer. Just knowledge of those resources in our respective areas would be helpful. We talked about area camps, our challenges, the safety certifications as far as the deadlines. It's really inconsistent throughout the state as to what is enforced, what the deadline is for certifying a horse. When you have to, do you have to ID that horse for the whole year, or can you pick a new horse 2 weeks out from fair? Our deadlines, consistency. Talked about horseless horse, and we had an idea for maybe to piggyback with the ag days, to do like a trail ride to get kids involved in the horse program, take them on a fun trail ride, get them out there.
Awesome.
Sorry,
Thank you, great group. Definitely big fans for your ideas. We appreciate them. All right.
Okay.
Challenges that are left.
Challenges. I think you touched on program inconsistency. We also talked about there's so many areas of the horse project, and it's so diverse. There's so many opportunities that sometimes that's a challenge to navigate all of those things and provide those opportunities. The age-old saga, again, 4-H v FFA, how is it cool? How are we cooler? And also retention and keeping kids in from 8 to 18. Because of these multitude of diverse interests, having enough adults to provide leadership and education in all of those areas becomes challenging and tricky. Also, just funding is always an issue. Economy is always an issue, as well as the ability to miss school for 4-H events, unlike our FFA cohorts. We're also a really giant state. What was the horse training? Oh, we have the image in 4-H sometimes that we're into horse training rather than kid training. And also the availability of resources was one I wrote down, just based on where you live and who's there and what kind of money is there too.
Did we miss anything that we need to make sure we cover with our SWOC analysis? Okay, so this is what I think is the best. I feel like we shared a lot of information tonight, maybe too much to process, and there's some people who aren't at the table. So what I'd like to do is I will send out the recording of this, so if you want to listen to it again, you can, but also those people who aren't here can listen to it. And then I'll write up some notes and maybe group these things into categories of things that fit together, and then we'll send it out, and then we'll give you some time to think about it. And then what I think we'll do is we'll prioritize what things you think maybe, like have you rank them from 1 to 10. This is the most important thing that we should deal with today versus this is something that maybe you want to deal with or it's not important and we'll deal with it in 2 or 3 years. So we'll give you some time to think about what you want to do by taking these 2 sheets, putting them into categories. So I think some of these, while they're different ideas, they may kind of break into some ideas that kind of could be forming committees or forming groups, like educational opportunities. Rules, I think, was one that came out, or rules or how to make things consistent with the horse levels training. A need to train leaders. I mean, those are things that are in my head came out as being very important in my group and the group that was up here. I'm sorry, I should call them the blue group / black and the green group. They're not mine. I'm sorry. Wow. My group was cooler, whatever. Okay, so anyways, I think that will kind of be, I feel like I should probably say. So that will kind of be what we do in order to move this forward. I feel like we've definitely talked a lot and saturated our brains into that. I kind of want to stop it there and have the ability for you to think about what we talked about. But Jonathan did promise sometime today that if there was something that thing like, I really wish we would add this or do this, or things that maybe aren't along this big picture mission that we talked about that we can maybe fix immediately, that you want to bring up, allowing the group as a whole to, or every person to say some things that they really wish could get changed or addressed that maybe aren't part of this big picture but are more like immediate things. Like I wish you would put this file on the website so I could access it. I wish I would have the patterns this day. Whatever it happens to be, if you have something that you were hoping to say that's not related to this SWOC kind of analysis thing, that you have the opportunity to do that. Because I think that's important. So Jonathan's going to turn the computer. So I'm going to start here and work our way around. Because I see she has a bunch. Okay,
no, she has one, so I told her to make sure to remember it.
Okay, we'll start with you. That way we can kind of get an idea of what we're talking about. So
I would like Western riding to go away for every group except for the seniors. Western riding
has an N. Western. Sorry.
It's state fair across the board.
You know,
Counties
what
can
you
do what
guys,
they want.
that's not here. What happens at county level stays at the county level. Okay, but at state fair,
What county?
I hate to see it. It's painful. It is just painful. So,
And no judgments for anything you say. So if someone says they don't like Program Ride and I know Stuart loves it,
I know he does.
no
too.
judgments, I promise. So just give you that heads up, no judgments, say what you feel, what you want, and we will still like you when we leave this room. So at least I'll still like you. I mean, so
I think we should add minis, jumping and obstacle in hand.
so many horses, opportunities like jumping and obstacle in hand.
Sweetwater County has probably 20 kids.
See, that's the kind of things that we're talking about.
Yes.
Anything, Amanda?
Well, I mean, I live in the northeast corner of the state, so I really object to everything being in Laramie. Judging camps, judging, all those things are in Laramie. We used to kind of rotate them around the state so that if it was up in our area, we'd all pitch in and do it. And it gave the kids that are old people like me that don't like to drive to Laramie an opportunity to do them.
Great. Caitlin, anything?
Not right now.
Okay. You can come. We'll come back to you.
Wait, you had one.
I
She
did?
mentioned one in our thing.
I did.
Yes, it wasn't about program right or Western Riding. It was a different one.
Oh, are you gonna bring it up? She's scared.
There was one other one you said,
Raining?
yeah, that should go away too or something. Wasn't it?
Oh.
Correct me, group. Am I wrong?
Oh, they're gonna
You don't remember either? Okay.
It was,
Or was it?
He's gonna throw you under the bus.
It was
Yeah.
kind of,
Yeah.
it was kind of Western Riding, and then she said something else about another category. Okay, if they don't know, then it must not have been that big.
Jonathan makes things up.
No, I don't.
Sometimes.
Okay, we're good.
Go ahead. Sure.
My daughter, this is her 3rd year as a junior. She loves Western Riding, and I mean, she might have won it 3 years in a row. And she was sad because I wouldn't let her come do it at state because we couldn't do it on Monday. So I think that there's some kids that can do it. I didn't see what you saw today, but she loves it. She won't be a junior next year though, so I guess if you want to take it away,
She's cool with that
I
now.
heard still intermediate now.
Can I say something real fast relating to that?
Yeah. Sure.
Western Riding, if you bring back the levels program, if there's any way to do that quickly, you can restrict Western Riding using the levels program. So basically that would limit it to kids who can do it properly will be the only ones allowed to do it, which would help the kids who say they love to do it. If they love to do it, and that means they should be the correct level to do it properly.
Yeah. Right. Well, the other thing does is encourages those kids that can't quite do it to work a little harder.
You're backing down from your statement. I love it. It's great.
So we're good.
I'm just kidding. I'm just messing with you.
Well, exactly, though. It'll challenge them to be that level in order to do it if they really, really want to do it.
We'll wait till Chris is done. Okay, Rogan's gonna tell us his idea.
Kind of add more, not like patterns, but more like the kind of stuff and
Like race.
yeah.
More fun stuff.
More fun stuff.
Like race. It's like the
More
yeah.
cattle.
Like
He said cattle,
Yeah, sorting.
sorting.
Not sorting.
Sorting, like with swords?
Yes.
On a horse? Okay.
That'd be so cool.
Let's start jousting now.
Mounted combat.
Slide by with the watermelons. Chop it.
All right.
Water balloon fight off the horse.
There you go. There you go.
That's probably
Okay, so in our county this year, we had no kids, only some seniors in the program ride. And I think part of it's because they didn't have the thing drawn out, and it was like I was trying to draw it out for my sister, and I kind of got confused at some stuff and didn't know because it like you jump from A to B, and it doesn't give you any directions. So like okay, so I think that they should try and make it the same all over the state, and then draw it out so it's easier for the little kids to understand it.
And from a horse show perspective, the patterns that are available on the state website are probably not very conducive to the drawing. So I would like to see us use USEF, beginner novice patterns, or something like that is what I'd like to see, because then you will have the visualization of how to ride them. But
Would a YouTube video help? Would a YouTube video help?
Can you learn it in 6 minutes?
There was a
Probably.
day when we had that in the 4-H committee.
yeah,
there was.
yeah, there was. There absolutely was. There absolutely was.
Well, let me rephrase that. How do you want me to capture that? I'm trying to say, you want us to use different rules, or you want us to fix those stuff that we do have?
I want
Yeah.
you to. I would prefer that you fix the stuff that you do have. but
So
we
the
can
visual
keep it-
aspect of the pattern.
Yes, yeah, the visual aspect of the pattern needs to go back in, but we can thieve or plagiarize from
Right, okay.
USEA and USEF and those kinds of places. We can certainly plagiarize. They're not really going to care.
So Jonathan, that ties in with having simpler patterns for
Right.
juniors.
Okay.
I live my life.
Borrow would be a better word.
All right, Scott, you're up.
Recording it.
You know, the comments about levels
Thank you.
kind of best address the thing that I'd like to bring up, and that is the fact that some classes and skills should be categorized based on age and others based on skill level. So in some places where we have seniors writing that it's their first year, they should be in a novice. And the skill levels usually address that.
And we've heard that in a couple different places in Allen. There's, I mean,
Yeah, let me just, can I just, because I don't disagree. I think one of the challenges we get to is back to the safety certification is there still has to be a standard of some sort that gets to make the call. And usually it's with the volunteers, because right now one of the gaps that I see is we have this, whoever the educator trusts identifies or works with volunteers saying that's who certifies them as being safe. So there's a trust level in place that's usually the university has taken that traditional role. It doesn't have to be, but it usually has been. Some big shot with a PhD at the university is the one that says you can teach to level 2 and you can teach to level 3 based on some standard of their expertise and that knowledge. And that's where the challenge, I think, because we haven't had some of that consistently at the university, to be effective in that, we've lost some of that gap in there. Because
part of the
that
issue on
has
the
to.
ground is, let's say, for instance, she's a junior in high school, and convinces 2 of her friends to join the 4-H horse program.
Right,
And
exactly.
it's their first year. They don't want to go out there and be in the junior class.
no. Right.
Right,
They
so
want to go
novice
through a
class.
process of learning that qualifies them to be something peer accepted.
Well, we had a really good example of that in the barrels this morning, senior barrels.
Wow.
The girl was terrified of her horse, had only really been riding him a month, had
Probably
been
shouldn't have been
bucked
there.
off a couple weeks ago. The horse really didn't buck, but her experience was so limited. The horse knew it, and he took advantage of her, and she was terrified, and she should not have been there.
Yeah.
And her leader or her parents should have recognized that she wasn't ready and should not have pushed her to that limit. And maybe that's where that training,
It's no fun when you're scared.
and
Yeah.
she was terrified. She laid out there. Lori was there, and she said that she wasn't as much hurt as she was so terrified that she laid there and she went to the hospital that maybe she would get out of doing it the rest
Yeah,
of the
we're
day.
having to deal with it the rest of the day.
Interesting.
And we
It
don't
was very
want that
interesting
happening. in our
Right.
program.
So,
That's the way I am on dates till I got married.
all right, Stuart, you're up next.
Well, I guess I have to weigh into that discussion. I think that's inappropriate to base age mostly, particularly intermediates and seniors, on an age basis. It's a heavy skill. Program ride and Western riding are the downhill racing of skiing sports. They are the top of the heap, the hardest and most difficult thing to do. And I've seen juniors who are very good at program ride and at massage classes. And we shouldn't try and keep them out. But I think it's a heavy leader responsibility to not get kids into things where they don't belong before they're ready. There are a lot of kids who can ride program ride and ride the pattern for Western horsemanship. Western Riding, and don't have a horse that can do it. Because that's an important function. If you don't have lead changes down really good, knowing how to do them, and you don't have a horse that knows how to do them, you don't belong in Western Riding classes at any age. And that's one of the challenges that we have is teaching those skills to youth to do that. And I'd hate to see those kids that can master that and have mastered it deprived of the class. And I do understand what you say about having all these wrecks because kids are doing it that don't belong in those classes. And that's really a leader and 4-H educator program that starts at that particular program with that particular club about how to do that. And that's part of leader training on that situation that manages that. So I don't like to see it restricted. It doesn't matter whether it's team roping. The same thing applies. You know, this kid and this horse don't belong chasing the cow or working cow horse or even reining. That is the leader deal. In our county, one of the things that happens, and I'm interested in how other people in other counties look at it, is every kid wants to do everything so they get the all-around high point award. And I have questioned the validity of that for a long, long time.
You're saying eliminate it? The high point award?
Or what's the validity of the High Point Award?
And that the more appropriate way to do that would be to have high point awards for classes that kids fit into. So the girl who's got a really good barrel horse, who gets by in Western Pleasure, who gets by in horsemanship, doesn't belong running the cow down the fence in working cow horse, or doesn't belong, turning Western Riding into a speed event. And so that we tend to direct the kid and the horse to where their education and skill level is, not so much their age.
I guess in Sweetwater County, we have Gymkhana High Point, we have a cow High Point, and we have our pleasure and our performance.
You see, maybe in English, and maybe a cow.
The English and the performance end up together.
I'm going to interrupt for just a second. My phone has 2% battery left, and it's what's using the internet. So I'm going to give the two of these guys a chance to talk in case my phone dies, and then we can come back to finish off. So Krista, you may, who knows, hopefully you just stick around for a while, but
you need another phone?
If you have a mobile hotspot. It has to run the computer. So Krista, do you want to give us anything you need to add to this? Please change, fix, delete, address this now.
Of course, the only thing I would like to really see is more educational opportunities in forms of horse bowl and hippology. Other than that, I agree with everything that's listed, but I do have to go.
Okay, great. Thanks so much for staying with us. We appreciate it. And Glenn, anything you want to add to the change, fix, delete, address?
You guys are doing great. It's almost like I'm there with you, writing it all down. It's great.
Oh, she left. Okay, sorry. The one that was left, so I just was worried for her. Okay, sorry. Anything else?
No, you guys. This is all along the lines of where I'm headed to. So this is great.
Okay, so if we cut off, it means my phone died and my mobile hotspot is gone, and I may try to get the internet back, but feel free to head out. So
I won't be mad at you then.
Okay, sounds good. Thanks. All right. Sorry, I just wanted to make sure we got that in.
I just have one question. You sent us out, and I've been, I guess, working on this for years with Jonathan. This is kind of the best thing you can come up with. You sent out this draft equine project manual, what is it that you want us to do with it?
Okay, so that was my last thing. I was going to wrap things up. So I appreciate you led right into it. So we made copies because it's extremely long. For those of you who didn't get a chance to print it off. Yeah, I figured. I understand. So Jonathan's going to hand them out. Yeah, what I think here. I think so. So Jonathan's going to hand them out. I don't think, once again, we've kept you here for almost an hour, almost 2 hours. So I don't want to sit down and go through this, but I think if we can take, so the next two things I want to do with this group. One, we're going to have this discussion where we rank things and talk about how we form some committees and move forward based on what we came up with today. And two, whether we bring you together to do this, I haven't quite figured out yet, or whether we do it via Zoom or a combination like this. Maybe we have a winter meeting. I'd like you to sit down maybe as you're on your own with the leaders in your county, with maybe your educator, with people who are using this, and really think about what in here is missing to make my leaders better work to train the young people in my county to on 4-H horsemanship, whether that's the colors of a horse, parts of a horse, how to ride a horse, whatever it is, what's missing or what's good here. There's been some question from some educators of the validity of the order. So I think we've had some people work on, is it building skills, or is it starting in one place and then skipping back to another place? So the question is just like, the manual is good, and I think what Jenny did is she pulled from other sources, and so we're just looking to figure out, is it consistent to say, I'm a new leader, I'm going to start here and help my kids work to here? Do I know where intermediate kind of starts if I'm just taking over for a program, so I would know kind of to start here with my older kids? Is it age appropriate? So I think there's a lot of things to think about when you look over this, and I don't want you to spend, I'm glad Stuart spent some time with it, but I'm not sure the rest of us have had the opportunity to sit down and really look at this. So what's missing? And then in turn, Jenny's goal is to use this to build that levels program. So if you're thinking about that levels program, what kind of things or skill sets are missing? And is there a way to incorporate, these are the skills that should be had in order for you to participate in showmanship. These are the skills that, I mean, because that's what I'm hearing, is that we need to maybe make this skill level appropriate to line up with our riding level. Is that kind of what you're hearing? That's what I'm hearing, is that is maybe an opportunity for that?
Yeah, with the manual, I'll just tell you right now, there's kind of a bottom line, which is at some point in time, Jenny's going to, this is going to be done, right?
Right.
So it's going to become a resource in some format for the Wyoming 4-H program. So before she says, I'm done, it needs to go to print, it's not going to be perfect. There's not the perfect horse, anything to capture all. But is there stuff missing that needs to be captured in there? And if it means we need 26 more chapters, then make sure it's tied to the purpose of what she's outlined as the old purpose. So look for those gaps and then email us and let us know what those gaps are, or to Jenny directly, because her next goal is to take information from you and from her peers that she sent this to evaluate, gather that information and update it with those gaps onto it, and then roll it back out to us for final kind of like, this is it, then I'm ready to go. And then us to be able to say, okay, that's good enough, if you want to call it that, because it won't be perfect. But then if its goal is to replace the green manual, the old green 4-H book, as an updated version, if you want to call it, of that for our 4-H program. And
if it's easier for you to write notes on it, then you can take it to your 4-H educator. If you have a scanner, they can scan it and send it to Jenny, if that might be easier, because for me it's a visual. Like, I wish this would get moved to page 96, or this needs to be added. So for you, it's easier to like write on it and write some notes. I think that a really easy way to do is either send Jenny the manual, or you could
our office, drop by your extension office, they can mail it to us.
Right, whatever works. But I think that that's the goal. And probably, I would say she probably wants this out by the end of the year.
Oh, yes.
Or is there, I mean, what do you think her time?
No, she does.
Okay.
She does.
So if you can kind of think about, making this a priority between now and maybe like October, to get some of those things looked at, to figure out where that goes, I think that would be a priority of the group. I just don't know if it's the best use of our time to sit and go through every page, just because I think that all of us come with a different perspective, and it gives you a better chance if you can really sit down and read some things. And if you find minor spelling errors, something like that too, she would love to have those, because it's going to go to print too. But definitely think about the content, and does it flow, and does it work well, and is it going to help and do a good job replacing that green manual that many of you have been using for a while. So.
I can tell you that from the old green manual to this new one, there's still that gap related to the levels program. It was written in as a starting point in the old one, It's not in this new one as a basis of educational materials. So she's going to use that as the basis for then developing or revamping with all of your help what that's going to look like and how we're going to roll that out over the next year. My goal is that you guys are going to give us the advice to get this done, to help us revamp the levels program and start figuring out the basis around our volunteer training systems so we can start prioritizing what are those pieces amongst those things that we've all heard and identified our priorities so we can start figuring out how to solve some of those pieces. And if it means we have to prioritize some resources like that $5,000 I've told you towards one area, we will, right? If it's what's number 2 or 3 on the list collectively, then everybody at least knows we're going to get to it. It just may not be immediate. But we're making progress, and we need your help to continue to make this happen. And we can't wait too long on some of these pieces, especially the levels program, in my opinion, is way overdue. You've all identified it. It's the next on Jenny's list as far as that, to work with you guys to help us develop what that could look like and then how we get volunteers trained and screened and off certifying and what that might look like. And at the same time, developing committees to start looking at our rule book and those next pieces that come out of it. So when you prioritize this stuff, it could be great. Is this a priority that we all have to address? Or can we get a group that is a subcommittee of this group that's really passionate about it to then tackle? That's kind of some of those next steps. Does that work?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, definitely.
But
So
then the other question was about meeting again. You went left and with, right?
yeah, I haven't
Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
figured out where that goes yet.
Well, that's kind of where we're at. I think is kind of how you guys are feeling now about how do you want to. What's the next step? It's kind of a collective decision about. Are you feeling like we need to meet face to face again in a few months? I'm thinking a fall, winter type meeting to move this forward and see where we're at, or do you want to do a Zoom and then a fall meeting? It's kind of your collective decision.
Not in Laramie, promise.
Yeah. Okay. Oh, thank you. How you feeling?
Tired.
Exhausted.
Do you like the face-to-face better than the Zoom?
Yes.
Yeah.
So maybe we can look at something in October-ish, right? Is that what you're thinking?
I don't know.
October-ish?
So what works for people?
October-ish, late-ish.
Late October would be good.
I will send out what's called a doodle poll with some dates, and maybe we can look at a Saturday, maybe Casper area or something more centrally located for all of us to get to, so that way not everybody's driving.
Riverton.
Riverton.
Riverton are the two
Yeah.
most central places.
Yeah, so I'm not from Wyoming, so I don't know where anything central is. I need to work on my Wyoming geography. So
Another question. What are we gonna do at the next meeting? I mean, because there's no sense in meeting unless we have an objective.
So maybe in my head, maybe the next thing is we do a Zoom call to prioritize, and then once we have those priorities identified, that maybe then we can form some committees, and there can be some initial work as to some planning as to what those committees will do and how and what kind of things they want to tackle. Does that sound?
Yeah, but you're exactly right, Amanda. If you guys feel like to get that done, we need to meet face to face to do that. Then
So that-
yes, and
I
that's
guess-
what that October meeting would be. If it's not, then let's schedule it by Zoom and see where we go with the prioritization and report back to you and go from there. What I don't want to have happen is we're going to do a couple of Zoom calls and then people can't make it on, and next thing you know, we lost momentum because we're not.
So the next step is to prioritize what we came up with and figure out what direction we need to start at. So the question is, would you rather do that face to face, or can we do that via a Zoom meeting? Yeah.
So what I've done in the past when I've done some of these type of things is like usually the leaders are the ones that pull out, these are the major themes. Because throughout
Right.
there's a lot of themes.
Yep.
And
We're
then those
gonna
can
do
be
that.
identified through Zoom. Hey, these are our top ones. Where do we want to tackle? So then maybe we can go from like 20,000 like
Right.
5. That would help us get to what.
And then maybe we tackle 1, 2, and 3 in subgroups at a face-to-face meeting.
Right.
And that's maybe too if we decide there that we have some people we want to bring in because they're really good at horse camp, and that's one of the things we said are really good at, doing educational opportunities, that we can bring some extra players into the group at that point in time too. So
When we need to have like a fundraiser for some of this stuff.
You got some ideas, huh? Yeah, I know you do. You told us you had one on our last call. Huh? That's good. That's good.
Well, introduce you to my friend Steve. He'll like you. He's the money guy.
I'd like to suggest that we do the prioritization and kind of summarize it and do a Zoom, but I don't know how soon you want to handle it to then from that maybe determine whether there's a need for the next step after that. But at least we can follow up and say, here's what it looks like, here's what the prioritization came back out of you. But I don't know what your timelines are for being able to spend evaluating and making your priorities. Is that you need a month? You need 2 months? Yeah, it's
in observing what we did, there's kind of 3 categories that these fit into. Not the strengths, weaknesses, challenges, and opportunities, but they're kind of policies, procedures, and practices over here, skills, and rules. And all 3 of those things kind of are covered in here. This is kind of policy. And then there's skills. This can be a basis for skills. What policies are what we were talking about up here, and practices are awards and camps, and then that transitions over into skills, which is camps and education and leadership training. And so there's kind of those 3 things that we can kind of look at dividing this around. They're all interrelated, but those are
correct.
And I think my goal too, though, is to figure out, policies may be this book, but there all might be some other things that might take a lot of time. And so I'm going to hopefully try to create some time blocks. Like, do we really want to tackle all the policies, or are these like the 3 things that are in there that we could look, and which one of those is the priority to do at this point in time?
Policies are also practices.
Right.
All these ideas about how we're doing things, horseless horse programs. These are not oriented towards specific skills like learning how to change leads or something like that. And so we can't. If you go through these things and look how these fit into these categories, but how horse camp is how we do things, but it's also a skill. Well, we determine how skill oriented that camp is, and so they cross over. And anyway, I'm just suggesting that's how we can look at these different things as to how we put committees together to figure out how they're interrelated.
So we think maybe if I get this out to you next week, by maybe the end of September, you'll have time to kind of think that over, and we can maybe do a Zoom meeting at the end of September. Does that work with people?
Sure.
Anybody opposed to that? Okay.
Does that work for you? A Zoom call in September?
Okay, great. So that's what we'll plan to do. And then from there, we can kind of talk about what our next step is after that. So I think that, and I'll use that information to kind of figure out how to prioritize these and put them into some subcategories. So, all right. Looks like we're at about 8 o'clock. So I'm sure many of us who have been up all day since the crack of dawn would like to get some sleep, or at least get some food and stuff. So I want to thank everybody for your time and coming down here. For those of you that need anything else, and I know Stuart needs a place to stay, and if anybody else needs anything, let me know, and we will move forward with that. So, okay. Be safe. Have a great night, and maybe we'll see you during the rest of the fair.
Take sandwiches.
Yes, please take as much as you want. If you have friends, relatives to feed.
You can go sell them to people. Yeah.
Thanks on the internet if you're still there. Thanks, Glenn.
Yeah. Thank you. We'll see you guys.
Sounds good.
Thanks, Glenn.
Thank you.
Thank you, Sarah and Jonathan.
Oh, no problem.
Yeah, thank you.
Oh, hey, Jonathan.
We don't want to just don't like it. We can just tell we don't trust it.
Okay. So you have the phone.
I'll drive up there right now.
Okay. Sorry. Did we take it with you?
Did you already say he'd stay in the
What
phone?
grade
Yeah,
are
he
you
wants
in,
to.
Logan?
Hey, thank you so much.
What grade are you in?
I'm in 7th.
7.
Logan, I heard you're a rock star today.
Let all these all come back then?
Yep, that sounds good.
What?
Said I heard you were a rock star today. Jonathan said you were very vocal, so that's awesome. So Jonathan's gonna take you up to the dorms and get y'all situated.
Squared away. Does that work?
Yeah, unless there's, I mean, if
We need
you
help
wanna
with
have
anything?
conversations and discussions.
You need help? I don't. I think I'm good.
If they're not.
Oh,
Well,
okay.
I think it's just people going 30 different directions right now. Are you?
We're done early.